Alrighty, everyone, welcome back. So, we continue on our prospect pool overviews today with the Nashville Predators. As I mentioned a few days ago, we have about 10 more teams to finish up. So, we're just going to try and run right through them here before the beginning, of the season. In Nashville, they're obviously a team that is kind of in a strange spot right now where they're not like a really good playoff team, but they're not a really bad team either. They're just kind of in the middle, so they are a very interesting team to talk about for sure. Regardless here, we'll start out with Joakim Kemell, who is a forward from Finland. I'm just going to say Finland. You can see the thing on screen right now. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. That's going to be a struggle. But yeah, he's a right wing from Finland. 5'11", 183 pounds, a little bit shorter than other NHLers that have gone through the system. So that's definitely something you got to keep in mind there. But that really shouldn't affect him. He's the type of player that it really shouldn't. Drafted 17th overall in 2022. I liked him a lot heading into that draft. And definitely a guy that I looked at as a high-profile forward. And in 14 games played this past year with the Milwaukee Admirals, he had 6 goals, 7 assists for 13 points. That's some good numbers there in just 14 games. Some very good numbers. And he's a guy who has a lethal shot, can play a very physical role, and is very aggressive. And you look at that right wing side there, too. It's relatively weak, so he's going to have a good shot there at getting some ice time playing there for Nashville for sure. I would expect him to at least get some NHL time this coming year. Maybe not like a full NHL year, but he should be at least considered as a player there and a legitimate right winger. But another right winger is Luke Evangelista, who is a right wing from Toronto, Canada. He is 6 foot, 183 pounds. So another right wing there too. And Kemell and Evangelista are going to be competing. The only difference is that Evangelista actually has some NHL experience under his belt. Drafted 42nd overall in 2020. He is a guy that I find very interesting on Nashville's roster, and definitely a guy who came up when they were injured. They were injury plummeled throughout the entire year, it felt like, in Nashville. And it definitely played a role. And you had guys like Evangelista come up. You had guys like Tommy Novak, Juuso Parson, and other guys that came up into the lineup and got some ice time there. And definitely, it's going to help out with their development. Drafted 42nd overall in 2020, so he's been in the system for a while. But regardless, in 24 games played with the Predators last year, he had 7 goals, 8 assists for 15 points. Those are very positive numbers there for a player who is just making his debut in the NHL. And is a polarizing prospect, a guy that's not really well known amongst people, but he should be, because I think he's going to have a pretty good season this coming year if he plays fully on Nashville. He's shown that he can. He's shown that he's put up good numbers, and definitely a guy that if I'm Nashville, I'm very excited for in the future for sure. And as I mentioned, he had a solid stretch in the NHL, and he's got that average height to him, so he's nothing to worry about there. Next up, then, you have Matthew Wood. Wood is a left wing / center from Lethbridge, Canada. 6'4", 196 pounds. He won the Helika Gretzky Cup in 22-23, so not too long ago. Obviously, he's a guy that was drafted this past year in Nashville's draft when they were a team that was obviously barely missed out in the playoffs. Got some additional draft picks in return. And yeah, that was one of the guys they acquired. That makes this prospect pool look a little bit better. But Wood drafted 15th overall in 2023, as I mentioned, and in 35 games played with the University of Connecticut, he had 11 goals, 23 assists for 34 points. He's listed as having a great wrist shot and some very good top 6 upside. Definitely a guy there who could get some time for sure. And yes, Nashville's a team where they're like, again, they're in that strange spot. So you're going to see some younger players get a shot in the lineup. Not Matthew Wood necessarily, but other guys are going to get a chance. And for sure, in a few years, Wood could be their first or second line center. Very possible, if everything goes the way they want it to, of course. But yeah, he has good top 6 upside there as an NHLer. Another guy they got in this last year's draft was Tanner Molendyk, moving away from the forwards here to the defenseman. He's the defenseman from Kamloops, Canada, 5'11", 181 pounds, won the Helika Gretzky Gold in 22-23, along with Matthew Wood, so there is some chemistry there with those two players, or at least there should be some. So it's good you have them on the same team there. I like Molendyk a lot. I thought he was one of the more underrated guys defensively in that draft in 2023. He was drafted 24th overall in this past year's draft, as I just mentioned. And in 67 games played this past year with the Saskatoon Blades, he had 9 goals, 28 assists for 37 points. Not huge offensive numbers in a very high offensively scoring league, but you don't expect that really out of a defenseman. So good numbers there for him for sure. He's listed as being an explosive skater and has very solid defensive capabilities to his game as well. So definitely a guy there that I'm on the lookout for if I'm Nashville. For sure. And Nashville's always been a defenseman powerhouse. You look at guys, Ryan Ellis, Roman Josi, Matthias Ekholm, Dante Fabro. You got so many guys there that have come through the system that have been drafted within as well. I know maybe not all of those guys were, but you got guys that were drafted within who have been playing very well on Nashville's blue line there for sure. After that, then you got Ryan Ufko. Ufko is a defenseman from Smithtown, USA. He's 5'10", 181 pounds. He was a United States Hockey League champion in 2021, so that was a little bit while ago. And he's been in the system for about 2 years, and it really is expected that he should be coming over to the pros next season. Drafted 115th overall in 2021. Again, guys selected that late in the draft obviously do take longer time to develop, so it makes a lot of sense. But in 32 games played with UMass, he had 8 goals, 16 assists for 24 points. So definitely he's got some good offensive style to his game, especially playing in UMass. He is a fast rising prospect, as listed for the sites that I looked at, and definitely a hyped up defender for Nashville for sure. A guy that I really like for them, and is also another underrated guy. That's what I feel like about Nashville's entire pool. They got a lot of underrated players in there that are going to make probably maybe even all these guys will make some kind of NHL impact at some point. Someone who I know will make impact is Yaroslav Askarov, a goalie from Omsk, Russia, 6'4", 179 pounds, drafted 11th overall in 2020. Won Hlinka Gretzky Gold in 1920 as well, forgot to mention that. And here's my thing with Askarov and Saros and all that. There are rumors, there actually were rumors, and Askarov damn near got traded at the draft because Nashville wanted to move up. But obviously that didn't happen. Could they circle back to that? Maybe. Because you have 2 really star-capable goalies here in Saros and Askarov. Yeah, I would want to have those guys. But, like, you can't keep them both. It's shown that you can't keep 2 superstar goalies. You can keep really 2 solid tandem goalies. Like Freddie Anderson and Antti Ranta works out perfectly for Carolina, or even throwing Kochetkov there too. But you can't have 2 superstar goalies. So there is that chance that either Saros or Askarov get traded. I think it's more likely going to be Saros. But, you know, we saw Nashville's, you know, how easy they really wanted to move Askarov to move up in the draft, which I mean, we'll find out, but we shall see. In 48 games played this past year with the Milwaukee Admirals, he had a 26-16-5 record with a 2.69 goals against average and a .911 save percentage. Listed as being the next best Jussi Saros/Pekka Rinne type goalie, if you're looking at that for Nashville. And I will make another video on it in the future. I have 2 goalie-related videos I want to make, one on Carter Hart, one on Jussi Saros and Askarov. I think it would be a very good idea. That will obviously happen in the coming weeks, of course. I do plan on doing that eventually. But regardless, you know, I just want to get these previews out of the way first, and then we'll get into that stuff. But other prospects in the pool now goes as follows. You got forward Zach Leroux, forward Fedor Svechkov, defenseman Jack Matier, and forward Marcus Nuri. So those are all the guys there that are in Nashville's pool. Anyways, that'll do it for the prospect pool review for the Nashville Predators. Thank you all for watching. Tomorrow or Wednesday, not decided what day. I might do something else tomorrow. We will be doing the Arizona Coyotes prospect pool review, so stay tuned for that. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.